Swamiji, the next question is about the ideals that teenagers have. They are very idealistic. And so at the moment, the ideals that they tend to have are things like sustainability, veganism, and accepting diversity. And these are actually things that I would support too. But I feel that sometimes with teenagers, they can just go to extremes and they lose sight of practicalities. And also sometimes they don't see long-term effects. So Swamiji, I'll just give you some examples. So, if with sustainability, the teenager might insist that the family buy a Tesla because it's better for the environment. But that's not always practical for all families. And other things they do is they value health, and then and sustainability as well is combined in a vegan diet. But then if they're not thinking about the long-term effects of it, how can we encourage our teenagers to have a proper perspective without them feeling like we are against these noble values?
That's again, as we had said earlier, this dealing of these subtle things are very, very delicate, because it's that age. We were all like that. In fact, youth are always idealistic, and that's the time. That's why we can let them set high goals. We can give them a greater sense of purpose. Now, they are looking out for that, and when there are certain trends or certain ideologies which are there, again, youth is that age where you tend to get forceful and therefore addictive. I'm using addictive here in a larger sense. No? They can become obsessive. They can become also stubborn, adamant. Again, the play of the three things that you are telling: their own desires, likes and dislikes, their own individuality. So therefore they hold on to their ideology, and they want everybody. They don't want to listen to everybody else, including their parents, but they want that the parents must follow that. So again, it's part of their growth process. And I understand that leading from that, the question that you have, that certain practices can make them have long-term harmful effect. If it was just buying a Tesla, which maybe the parent cannot afford, and the child gets upset, angry, and spoils the relationship with the parent, or makes a notion in their mind that, oh, my parent doesn't care. Now, these are the long-term subtle harms that happen to them and the relationship with the children and parents. But now coming to the use of plastic, yes, we must use less plastic. We must avoid plastic. But at the same time, we have to understand that we have to find means not only to dispose of, not only to, recycle them, but find other healthier means of supporting what we want in our life. For example, a lot of waste, just to give an example, a lot of waste of plastic and these Tetra Packs, etc. are there because we are no longer cooking at home fresh produce. Now, if that does not happen, you cannot prevent the use of these things. You can find more recyclable material. You can find more practical methods of using long-term, say, plastic or whatever it may be, instead of just disposable plastic. But it has to be done gradually. But the impatience of the youth is they want it now. They want a solution now. Now that's a great driving force. We have to just channelize them, and we have to help them to channelize it. Coming also to trendy diets. Very often they sound very healthy, but through experience, we know that it can be harmful. It's better that they are given a proper understanding of it. That if you want to say, follow a vegan diet, but you have to supplement this with it. Because if you don't supplement this with it, it may not be a complete diet. Now, I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying that vegan is not a complete diet. But then, now this is where I'll give you an example in my own, say, when I was growing up, and as I took to the spiritual field, naturally, you don't want to eat what you call as, and I don't like using word like junk food, right? In fact, the street food of India, in fact, is quite healthy in some cases. The unhealthy food has evolved later on. In fact, they were quite healthy food actually that we used to get, maybe made in an unhealthy way, but they were healthy food. So naturally, all these spices and this type of food, I avoided. Then you keep on hearing that, oh, you should not take spices, it's not good for you, even for your meditation it's not good. Then they say that, oh, you must not take say this ingredient, that ingredient, etc. Not even why, but it's generally, you will find that people who follow the what to say certain paths, that you don't take this, you don't take that. And because when they are young they don't understand, and they take to a diet where they do not understand that there are certain supplements required. Over a period of time, ethnic diets were created. Like, even though vegetarian, we had not animal meat, but animal produce. Unfortunately, to commercialize, people abused those produce or the way they produced it. And naturally, it's revolting. And to stop that, the youth want those produce to be eliminated from their diet. But over a period of time, of course, there are distortions. But ethnic diets were created as a balanced diet. And if that is taken away and not complemented, or you don't have, and I don't mean substitute, that you make soya a substitute for milk. Soya is no substitute for milk. But that substitution, and I don't even mean just the pills and vitamins, which today we require because we are not out in the sun. So we have to take vitamin D as capsules. But if we don't do it, we should go out into the sun. So this kind of understanding, yes, when we are young, and with what is propagated, we find that children do not understand. Yeah. And they think that parents are just being over anxious, or they don't understand. They are used to some cruel systems from the past, or they don't care for the environment. In fact, when anyone was young, they all did these things also. We all also did it. You have to make them understand and help them. And if they still don't, then you have to help them to supplement it with maybe even capsules or something like that. But if they don't understand, at least give them some landmarks by studying it yourself, so that they watch that if you continue this method, I'm not talking just about diet, but this method of living, this are showing you that your health or your relationship or your social interaction or professionally, this is what you must watch out for, these landmarks that you see, that how it is going wrong in your life. So a system itself may not be wrong, but how you practice it is going wrong, and therefore alert yourself and bring yourself to your mental balance, your health balance, your relationship balance, or your professional and social balances. So yes, it is again challenging. Children are of different types. Some are addictive, and I say addictive, they are of the nature of stubbornness, and they take to something and then they campaign for it and then they want to do it, but they do not see that the effects are seen shortly. And we should correct ourselves, not being to go back to wrong methods, but to find better methods to complement whatever system we are following, which is a good system. Just as you gave example, say being vegan, it may be good, but if you find that certain health issues are coming, now by the time the experts find out and what to say, pass it and then propagate it, it might be too late. So a little bit of self-awareness also must be cultivated, so that again, children should be allowed to make the mistake, but they must also learn to bear the consequences of their mistake. And this is where parents become so-called overprotective and don't allow them, in the fear of the consequences, don't allow them to even bear the consequences, that they do not see that when the small decline happens, they should know that something is going wrong. It doesn't have to be stopped. It just has to be retracked, or it has just to be corrected, or it has just to be brought to balance.
Swamiji, social media is such a big part of teenagers' lives. If we ban it altogether, our kids can't participate in this social world. But allowing it means we don't know what they will get exposed to. And also, Swamiji, some kids spend hours gaming, and we don't know who they're interacting with on these social media platforms. How do we guide them in terms of the time and quality they spend on social media and also keeping them safe?
I could give a straightforward answer that we have to allow them, at the same time discipline them and teach them how to moderate themselves or live in moderation. But we know that very often it's left to them, and some are wise, some find out after some time, some still continue, and many remain addicted. But I can just tell you from my experience at CIRS, our residential school, when parents came up to us and in a way complimented and said, how do you keep our children so, what do you call that, so in the modern world, in the trend, and at the same time, when they even come home for holidays, we as parents, and very often as parents, they actually give them these equipments, and children are always fascinated. How are you able to discipline them? And we give it a thought itself that of course we have to give some time limit, etc. And being in a school, you can do that. With parents, they will throw tantrums, etc. But we found that because they've got so many other avenues to express themselves with their friends, in the sport field, in their studies, in their interest in their studies, that they are not revolting, they are not insisting on being on social media. Again, there are some children who are, and they have to be corrected, guided, and sometimes even firmly disciplined. But the majority of the children, because they've got so much expression to do things which they enjoy, they benefit from. In fact, that is the most positive way, when they can love spending time with the family, when they love being out in the open, playing sports rather than playing these games on the the smartphones, and getting visually so addicted to it that it becomes which is not really real sport. Because when with your body, like if you're playing soccer, when you're playing cricket, when you're playing uh, netball, basketball, all these things, when they start enjoying, and even now during the lockdown, or during this pandemic, where most people are refrained at home and naturally are on these gadgets and getting even more addicted to the gadgets. But after some time, you are already hearing of people wanting no more of these gadgets, no more, even children, and wanting more social interaction. So the more positive way is that somehow or the other, they should enjoy social interaction directly. That is the positive way. Of course, every time, every place, all of this doesn't work. Other is to teach them what is moderation. And that is in everything in their life. Not that everything they see is bad. Now, I remember one conversation I heard my parents talking about. When, and when we were growing up, even going to any movie was not allowed. It's not that you were never allowed to go for a movie, but you could not go to any movie, even if they were, because that time it was not like parental guidance or, the age. It was just either adult movie or young. But even adult movie, of course, you could not go if it was of a certain age. But even certain movies, we were not allowed. That's, you're not just allowed to go for that. But we were allowed to go for other movies, so you didn't feel that you're being completely restricted. Then as you grow as teenagers and grow up, and when you have your independence, when you're allowed also to go and see certain things, there is where one day I heard their conversation, where my father was telling my mother, if we have given them the right upbringing, today, even if you stop them, they are going to do behind your back. Let us trust that we have given them the upbringing and they will make their right choices. Yes, when any of the children were about to cross the threshold, yes, they were watchful and they stopped, even if they had to be firm. But we must train them to make their own choices. And in spite of your training, again, I repeat what I'd said, they may make their mistakes. Let them bear the consequences of it. And sadly enough, those who do not listen in spite of such upbringing, you have to, and in spite of you even trying to control and discipline them, they have to learn from their mistakes. And if they don't learn from their mistakes, life will teach them, through their various experiences. And in the whole evolution of life as a whole, not just this birth. Some take time to understand, some need to be disciplined, some need to be shaken, some needs to be challenged. As parents, to the best of your capacity, you can do that. All these means. But Mother Nature, she's completely detached. She does it, and even if it is to teach them through their consequences, she allows them to go through consequences. Therefore, that same famous question that people keep asking, why does nature or God allow all this to happen? Because we have to learn a lesson.
Swamiji, when we can't see what they're doing on social media, it becomes very hard to discipline them and guide them. How do we do this, Swamiji?
And Swamiji, also just with social media, parents have a real concern for the safety of their kids because there are a lot of predators out there and who specifically target kids. So how do we deal with this?
Yes, that is definitely a great, great concern, not only for parents, but worldwide in every field. It's a matter of great concern that anything that we have which may be good gets so badly misused and even abused. Earlier we had spoken about the moderation in and how to train or discipline or make them understand the moderation and the benefit of social interaction, as well as in the what to say this social networking through these gadgets. But one matter of great concern, and over a period of time certain things happen. We know that certain games were suicidal, certain what to say identities and stealing of identities, and of course misleading people through different identities on social media, and to the extent where a lot of horrible things have happened. It's important not only for parents, but people who run social media, as well as what to say, leaders of societies, as well as psychologists, scientists, etc. Even criminal bureaus must know that this has happened. People are taking action, but coming to children, and especially teenagers, through various media itself, this must be made clear to them. Now, even when media actually points out that this thing has happened, remember that teenagers have that element of curiosity. They want to dare to try it out, thinking that it won't happen to them. This is addictions to substances, as well as to the social media. They want to just experiment. They want to fool around with it. Therefore, you cannot be browsing. There may be parental control. Maybe as parents, you must uh, bring to the attention of those who are influential, just like you do in schools. No, you must, in a way, just as they boycott those things yourself. Say, for example, a particular platform, so that they are even sometimes pressured to make that check or that difference. Just like parental control has been there, encrypting has been there. Uh, People are trying also in different places to do that. But coming to parent-child relationship, the moment you become aware of these things, and I'll tell you, children become aware even faster than you. Again, have a discussion with them. Tell them that as enjoyable it may seem, it is harmful. And we can only stop you to this extent, remaining it is your life. Still, you'll have to be watchful. I know you cannot browse into their thing. And today, even out of genuine concern, you might want to find out what they are seeing or where they are getting affected. You cannot do it until unless you go through proper, say, legal systems also. So it becomes even unavoidable because of all these privacies and children privacies and all that, which is meant for their protection. But if it becomes harmful to them, then we have to work on those systems. Now, this might sound that it's very high up there, and how can we influence all this? But whatever little that we can do, we should try to do it. Keep people informed about it. Keep your peer parents informed of what is happening. Even if your child has done and suffered, let other parents know about it so that their children don't suffer, as you would have wanted them to have warned you to all these things. But coming to your own children, when you find them, that's why it's very important that you don't, keep guarding them. But as parents, you've been given that intuition, not only their excessiveness, but when they are indulging in something harmful, you will start seeing the signs. The earlier you detect the signs and you find out what's happening, it's easier to control. Once they have become addictive to it, or overly attached to it, or infatuated with a certain person, this is not only on social media, then afterwards it is difficult. Then of course you give your guidance and detach and bear what happens. But give your guidance, even if they don't listen. Otherwise, later on, they will hold you that, why didn't you stop us? Where they are doing something harmful, stop them. Find out means by which you can stop them. As I said, some of these addictions, they can't stop themselves, even on social media. They get so easily fooled. If you find out, find any means, proper means. And of course, you'll never think of harmful means to them, but any proper means by which you can stop them. Because some things we know are dangerous, and they must know it as dangerous. Today, let me also add one thing. A lot is being propagated as becoming legal, certain use of certain substance, and maybe it's not immediately harmful, but the addiction to it can spoil relationships, can spoil your performance. Initially, all these things, stimulants, can improve your performance, including your mental state. But the moment you become addicted to it, even if it may be just innocent games, then where it leads you to something harmful that you do not see, that the games that you have started playing are not those innocent games that you are playing, but you becoming addicted to them, you will not be able to see those mischievous things that are happening on social media. And this is where, even with news, we have to be careful. So we do have to create, its own ethics. The foundation values may be the same, but the usage of each, we have to create our own disciplines, our own ethics, how far we go. And that is what we have to help our children through their growth period. Again, I repeat this. Every child is not the same. There will be amongst the number of your children someone who gets addicted to these things, someone who's stubborn, someone who's arrogant, someone who doesn't listen, some who feels that they are a victim and therefore are revolting. Best is do your best, then leave your rest. That is detachment.
Wow, Swamiji, it really is becoming very clear that good parenting takes a high level of detachment.
Swamiji, even we get addicted. So Swamiji, what do we do when we become addicted?
One simple thing is seek help. Because the very word addiction means that you are no longer in control of yourself. Your mind is not under your control. Whether whatever thing you are addicted to has now got complete control over you. And we don't like being controlled. First of all, become aware that you are being controlled. Whether it's by that gadget, whether it is by that substance, whatever it may be, or whether it's that person that you get addicted to, you are being controlled. Nobody likes that. But because you have enjoyed any pleasure, any desire also, which becomes intense, becomes greed or addiction, your mind will keep on hoping for it. Therefore, you are not in control. So therefore, whenever anyone is in addiction and becomes first aware that I am no longer in control and harmful things are happening to me, and I know that certain harmful things can happen, must seek help. This is very important. That's why children must always know that their parents are their well-wishers. Parents may not always be right, but they are always your well-wishers. They must know this. They must be assured of this. And whenever, at first, when you're addicted or when you're doing things which you know that are wrong, or your parents will stop you, naturally, you want to hide from them. And that's why parents find it difficult. How do we come to know? They will hide. You will also do that. You'll hide it from your spouse, you'll hide it from your parents, you'll hide it from your teachers. It will happen. But there is where, whenever we have addiction, take help from a well-wisher and give that person the authority to stop you, discipline you, even when you revolt, to stop you, to discipline you, to guide you. And there are certain places where you do require expert. I would not like to use the word just professional help. You require expert help. One should take that without any inhibition. One should take expert help. Therefore, prevention is better than cure. Early detection is useful, but when you are addicted, it is very important to get help and want to get out of that addiction.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. That's so important, to seek help and don't try and fend for ourselves. We need it, and if we can get expert help, that'll make all the difference. Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji. And I'd also like to volunteer to help Darren with his iPhone addiction. Swamiji, a very challenging moment as parents is when our angels turn into teenagers and they become very eager to point out our faults, and they think that we are doing a terrible job of parenting, and they're not afraid to tell us. And some of the things that they say to us can be very hurtful, and we know that we shouldn't take it to heart, but we've done so much for them and they mean the world to us, so we still do get hurt. Any advice for us in these moments?
Yes, I see that, teenagers doing that, and how parents get so hurt. Children always feel that they are hurt, but they don't realize that they have a greater power to hurt their parents. First and foremost, not emotionally, not angrily. I think a parent must express, and it is not their weakness and not that they are retaliating, must let their children know and make them even feel not guilty, but make them feel that they have hurt you, so that they recognize that, but not to the extent that they feel, overly guilty, because then as a defense, they will hurt you further. So they must know that. Then the second part is, you yourself have to understand that if they are hurting you, somewhere they have been hurt. It may be due to their own weakness or any such thing. So recognize their hurt also. And you may not be the cause of their hurt. They may be just blaming you. But somewhere they are also hurting, and therefore, in a defense system, they slash out and they hurt. And the most hurting to a parent is not only children correcting them or telling them anything, but telling them that they have been bad parents, and worse still, that the mess I am in today is because of you. And that hurts the parents the most, and I know how parents suffer the most from that. Even if, and yesterday also in one of the interviews, same thing comes at every level. It's not only teenagers, but even little older children. And even little children, but children you don't mind it, because you think that they don't know what they are doing. But same thing with teenagers also. Little also children will suddenly, if they don't get what they want, they'll say, "You don't love me, you don't care for me." The little children will keep on screaming like that. But you don't take that too seriously. You know the child does not really understand, and it'll be for a short time. But when it comes to teenagers, you take it seriously. And then when you start feeling really bad about it. And again, not knowing, instead of seeing where the child is hurting, the parent also starts retaliating. And then in the mutual process, both start hurting each other. But the hurt that the parent has gone through, and worse is if the parent does sometimes acknowledge, rightly so, and should, acknowledges that yes, I did make a mistake. Most of the time, it would not be a mistake. They are just venting out, and they know one thing, that if they do it with their friends or teachers or even their colleagues, just like spouses also do with each other, they know here's a person, even if you misbehave with them, one thing is, anybody can abandon you in this world. Your parents cannot, and particularly there, the mother. No? And therefore, men have their way, they will just withdraw. But women suffer inside so much, because the feeling that they get, not that men don't get it, men also get it. But when you start feeling that you've not been a good parent, and your whole life with your children is all about parenting. First of all, whenever anyone, even if they're saying the right thing, says it highly emotionally, or in moments of anger, or when they seem to be hurt, listen to it calmly and do not immediately react internally by internalizing it and immediately running to a judgment that I am wrong. Yes, you may have been wrong at some period of time, but at the same time, you may have done it with the best of intention. Do not keep on feeling guilty about it. Do not keep on brooding over it. Think how best we can heal each other and make those dynamics work. An outsider, even your own spouse, might be able to tell you that you are reacting in this manner. Yeah? As a parent, there also don't react. Listen to it. They're not necessarily saying that you are a bad parent or you were completely, because in that moment, when in any relationship, even in friendship, one rude word, and you're always like that. And therefore, the youth also have this. always done everything wrong for me. You have always hurt me. Just put one question to yourself and to the child. Has it always been like that? And you will find that most of the time it was not like that. And they can also think for themselves. So, yes, there's a time that you realize that maybe I've gone wrong for even them to speak like this to me. Even if I've not done anything wrong, somewhere I've not dealt with them properly. Don't feel guilty. Guilt makes you repeat that thing again and again. Don't feel a victim. Don't let your mental condition go down. Immediately see where you can correct yourself, where you cannot correct yourself. Forgive your child, forgive yourself also. But immediately, in any emotional moment of anger, frustration, whatever is said makes you reflect, but don't hold on to it at that time. After reflection, if you know you were wrong, you will find a solution of how to correct it. But the past is anyway dead and gone. Even if you have made a mistake, that you regret it is fine, but don't hold on to that regret. Don't blame yourself continuously for it. Find a solution for a better future. Focus your mind on that, on how we can improve that relationship, how we can maybe undo whatever has happened. But most of the things that are said in anger, and do not take it as absolute, do not take it as always. And as you said rightly, you know it, yeah, but we have to train our mind. Pause, think, reflect, and be firm with your mind. Not in a revolting way that I never did anything wrong. Yes, I did it, but I forgive myself and I forgive my children who may have even provoked it under me or with a spouse or anything. So, two elements which are there: acceptance of yourself and acceptance of the other. But accept only that which is right, not which is wrong. And the other is that if there is something wrong that has happened, forgive. In any relationship, forgiveness is the most important quality, that no mistake was ever done in the best well-wishing parents. It's not possible. It may not be knowingly, unknowingly mistakes happen. Unknowingly, everybody doesn't know complete psychology. The child may have taken wrongly, and you might think that I should have been more sensitive. I should have recognized this. But should and the reality is different. Always remember, tap into that. Did you do it out of your well wishes with the best you knew at that time? And know that then in nature there is a reason for it. Because certain children also, because of their temperament, from Mother Nature, invoke it out of you. Don't justify it, but they invoke it out of you. So, there is where again I say that you bear the consequences, allow them to bear the consequences, protect them, reduce their suffering as much as you can. But the learning process begins from there. So I know that's the most difficult part. And yesterday also, when I was having another interview, I said that as parents, this is something that you have to go through, which is very, very painful. But this is also in the art of parenting, that as you teach your children not to play victim, don't victimize yourself.
Swamiji, there was so much wisdom in there. You know, starting from don't hold on to what's being said in that emotional state, to forgiving ourselves. And I heard one thing some time ago, and it was hurt people. And when somebody said that, it really made me think about how I shouldn't react at that time when they're being that way. So thank you so much, Swamiji. That was really, really lovely.
So, Swamiji, we live in an ever-changing world, and even though nothing is actually new, the kids think that their generation is the first to face certain things. Now, they've kind of burst my bubble that I thought I was cool, and they really think of me as outdated, the older generation, closed-minded. And so as parents, how do we guide them without being labeled these things?
Didn't we all feel the same when we were teenagers? Even those who tell me that we did not feel like that, we were very obedient to our parents, when you speak to their parents, they laugh, right? So that's why I read one beautiful statement. By the time you know your parents were right, your children are telling you you are wrong.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. I'm feeling so much more equipped to deal with these challenging times now, after having spent this time with Swamiji. Thank you so much.
So I will conclude by saying what Gurudev said, that the youth are not useless, they've just been used less by themselves also, by the parents also. So help them to help themselves.
Swamiji, thank God we have you to use our youth. Thank you so much, Swamiji, for all the wisdom. It's been really helpful. I'm looking forward to putting all these things into practice.
And as I used to tell you all, when you all were younger, you're still young, you were younger, thank you for giving your children to me and the experience to deal with them when I had to deal with all of you.
Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.